All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I hope everybody is doing well on this beautiful, hopefully, Saturday morning. Welcome to Drupal Camp Asheville 2020 online edition. So I'll be introducing Mark Shropshire here, or as he is wider known among the Drupal community, Shrop. As a Senior Director of Development at Media Current, Shrop loves working at the intersection of leadership and technology. He focuses on empowering teams to excel while using best-of-class open source technology solutions. In addition, Shrop is an organizer and frequent public speaker at meetups and conferences, including Drupal Camp Asheville this year. He likes to talk about leadership, technology, productivity, and mentorship. So we are going to get rolling here. I'm going to hand it off to Shrop in just a second. And if you have any questions throughout the session, please post them in the chat. I'm going to be keeping track of those so that we can ask the questions at the end of the session. So take it away, Shrop.
All right, Kelly, I appreciate that. I am going to share screen so we can get started. And then I'm going to turn off the video. There we go. Okay, so you should see my screen and you should see my slides. Can I get a quick confirmation that you can see the slides? All right, cool. Thanks, Bo. Appreciate that. All right, so today we are going to talk about how you can upgrade your projects from Drupal 8 to Drupal 9, and it's going to be centered around the contrib space. So with a little bit of focus on anyone can help. I think this is real important in Drupal community, how anyone can get involved. So on today's agenda, we are going to chat about I'm going to do a little overview of Drupal 9, a little bit about the end of life process for the different versions of Drupal, and how that affects your upgrade decisions. And then a little bit about the steps to upgrading modules. We'll dig into some audit tools for deprecated code, how to check for code that no longer works in Drupal 9 that was taken away when Drupal 9 launched from the APIs, and how to fix that. And then we're actually going to live upgrade a module in the issue queue and that sort of thing. And hopefully release a Drupal 9 compatible version. We've got some resources throughout. One thing I want to mention is that there are ways that anyone can contribute through this. Some of it's going to be all kinds of different skill levels, but I promise there'll be ways that anyone could get involved, and we'll talk about those. I also want to mention that there's 2 resource links in the slides, and I've got everything else linked in the deck. I'll be sharing that following the session today. So there'll be plenty of, don't worry about taking notes basically on links if you don't want to. So those will all be in the PDF I'll upload. Okay, so a little bit about me. Kelly did a great intro, so this covers it all. So I'm going to jump on into the next slide so we have time to get as much done as possible. I do work at Media Current, and we are an open source expansion partner, meaning we focus on open source and the enterprise. And we also have just experts around Drupal, but we also, besides development, have design and strategy and marketing, and a lot of other groups that round out our work. And our mission is really centered around our talented team members and bringing those best of class products to the web. I couldn't really continue without just stopping for a second and thanking the Drupal community. Without the Drupal community as a whole and all the volunteers, none of the things you're going to see here today would even be possible. So really want to make sure that that we thank everybody that's helped out. This is a great opportunity to remind everyone here that if you see somebody like at the camp this weekend or at any other Drupal events, and you recognize them from being like a contributor to Drupal or has done a lot, don't hesitate to say thank you and reach out. They'll probably be surprised and a little shocked and humbled at the same time. So don't hesitate to reach out and thank others for their contributions, and then ask how you can get involved. All right, so let's kick off into a little bit about Drupal 9. Just wanted to give an overview. Not everybody knows what Drupal 9 is about and what's different from previous versions of Drupal. Drupal 9 was released on June 3rd. So it's pretty recent in the news there, which is exciting. That does not mean that everybody instantly upgraded to Drupal 9, although some of the things we'll talk about here is that is much more possible to more quickly upgrade to Drupal 9 than any previous release. So I've got a link in here for the release details, which really covers a ton. It's really worth checking out the link here on the Drupal 9 release details. As you can see, it's just general release notes, but also the requirements for your systems, for hosting, how to do the upgrade in general, and then all the changes and dependencies. So those are all the projects that Drupal pulls in from other open source communities and how that helps drive the upgrade and the need for the new version called 9. So this Drupal 9, this is the exciting part. This is real exciting for me, having upgraded major releases of Drupal in the past, where it's been pretty much like create a whole new Drupal site in the new version, and then figure out how to migrate all the content over, figure out what new modules need to be used in the new version. So what's different now from that is that this is the first major release where it's really easy to upgrade. And I put super easy. I mean, your mileage will always vary on these things, but if you keep up along the way with your upgrades of Drupal core and all your modules, it's much easier and it's manageable now because you can actually work on your upgrades along the way for even your contrib modules and custom code to make that possible. So the big thing for upgrading and preparing for Drupal 9 is to make sure that your code base does not have any deprecated code. That's code that was dropped in Drupal 9 because there's better code to replace it. There's something new to replace it. And if you don't check that or do that and make sure everything's ready and test it, then something's probably going to break. You're probably going to have some errors. So the good news is that's the main thing you have to do. The big point is that deprecated code. Really good blog post here on how to prepare for Drupal 9 that I've got in the link. So that's awesome. And so let's jump in a little bit about the different versions of Drupal, recent versions at least. So Drupal's been around a while, but I'm just going to focus on Drupal 7, Drupal 8, Drupal 9 for now, and with a brief mention of Drupal 10. So we're always planning ahead. Drupal 7 end of life was recently just extended due to COVID and just everything going on in the world and all the pressures and stuff. So the community decided to push back support. It was going to end in 2021, but there's going to now be support through 2022 for Drupal 7. And that takes a little bit of pressure off in a sense, but it also does not mean you shouldn't continue to start planning for Drupal 8. And there's some more links in there detailing that. But our focus today is more on like moving projects. If you're already on Drupal 8 to Drupal 9, there's more work to do to get from Drupal 7 to Drupal 9. But there's plenty of that going on, plenty of that planning happening in the community and lots of blog articles coming out. Drupal 8 is supported through the end of 2021. And really the big point here is going forward, Drupal 8, Drupal 9, what really designates when we're going to release a new major version, and I say we as in the greater community, it has a lot to do with when Symfony, which is a dependency of Drupal, when that Symfony group and community sets their end of life date, and we've got other dependencies like Twig for templating. When those have end of life and they're not supporting or releasing security updates, Drupal needs to align and make sure that we're also following those end of life, those notes. So that's really the big push for when that change happens. The exciting thing is Drupal 8, Drupal 9, Drupal 10, new features, and this is something newer from previous versions of Drupal, new features will be released throughout the life cycle of a single major release. So if you, now that Drupal 9's out, as Drupal 9.1 and 9.2 and so on is released, there will be new features added. So that's exciting. You don't have to wait till Drupal 10 for new features. Okay, so let's dive in to the audit tool. So these are some 4 different tools requiring various different skill levels and knowledge to use. And a lot of that has to do with some of them are command line, but it's still great. Even if you're not ready for all the command line aspects, it's still great to see it, I think, and learn about it. It creates questions. And again, we'll have links to a lot of getting started guides that'll help with that towards the end of this deck. But deprecated code, that's what we're really looking for. So all these audit tools help us find projects that have deprecated code. Drupal 9 is taken care of because that's what all the work was about. But there's thousands and thousands of modules that have to be updated along the way. So let's jump into that. The first one we're going to look at is the Drupal Check module or project. And Drupal Check, and this is just a screenshot, it lets us see deprecations right inside the command line. And we're going to step away and demo this. Let me get set here. Okay. And I need to pause here. I've got another machine running that I'm keeping my notes on. So, all right. So as we go into Drupal Check, let's do this. Into VS Code. So I'm running 2 different versions of Drupal active on this machine. I've got VS Code as my IDE running. That's my code editor, and that is set up to let me look at all the code and run. And I've got a terminal view here. I can run terminal commands. So Drupal Check will be the first one that we're going to run against. And in addition, I am going to show you a project that we will be running these checks against during this part of the talk. So maintenance mode redirect. This is currently only available for Drupal 8. It is not available for Drupal 9 yet. So, so we have some things probably to check on that. And this is a module that you basically, so if you're familiar with Drupal, this part of it, there's a maintenance mode that you can select, and it will show every user or even non-logged in users a message saying that the site's in maintenance mode. And you can even add a message. You can see here in a screenshot. And then what this module adds is these options to redirect to like a static page or something like that. So you may not want Drupal to actually show that message itself. You might want to just have it redirect to another page or another site. Some people do this on Amazon AWS, for instance, and have a static just page set up there. So that's all this module does. Real simple, but it's not ready yet for Drupal 9. So wanted to give that background. And let's go back to VS Code. So this is Drupal 8, and we've got maintenance mode redirect added. This is the module. This is Drupal 8. I think this is the dev release as of a few days ago. And we've got the maintenance mode project loaded, the latest stable release. Well, I think it's an alpha, but the latest full release. And this is what we're going to use to do the actual check for Drupal Check. Let me copy this Drupal Check. So we run. So I've installed Drupal Check in just globally on my machine. And I'll show you the project page in just a minute for Drupal Check too, and those are all linked in the deck. But actually, I'm just setting the path here. So Drupal Check modules contrib maintenance mode, and there's actually some other options Drupal Check will do. It'll do some static analysis of files, which just means it's looking for other problems with the project. But all we care is about deprecated code. It does that out of the box. So I'm going to run this command. Okay. Oh, I'm not in the right folder. Here we go. Now let's try this again. Okay, so it found one error on line 20, and it says call to deprecated method URL, and it says in Drupal 8, that's where it's seeing that, and it's removed from Drupal 9. These are the kind of messages you'll receive. So all that's saying is that this was deprecated, meaning it's planned to be taken away, and in Drupal 9 it was taken away. And then here's the new format. So it's going to be changed to URL from route. And this is just an example. Like really, it's just replacing some simple things. Most of these changes are very minor, and you're just switching out some code. And there's even a tool that will help do that automatically for us. But I do want to show you now in line 20 another little tool. So in VS Code, there's also a Drupal Check extension. There might be one for PHP Storm. I'm not sure. But for for VS Code, there is I can see the exact same message automatically in the code editor here. So and that has nothing to do with the terminal below that we just ran. That is automatic. So I can actually see those as I'm editing and working on Drupal sites right away. Just a little squiggly line shows me something's wrong, and I can read that message, which is really cool. So I want to pop over to the Drupal Check page. So this is the actual Drupal Check project in GitHub. And it has lots of information on installing. I actually installed it globally, so I can run it from anywhere. So I follow those instructions. It does require that you have Composer, which is a PHP tool on your machine. And there's plenty of, and it even talks about how to install, it has the links here, at least to Composer, so you can install that on your machine. But so let's take a look at the next, at our next one here. So our next way to audit after Drupal Check is the upgrade status module. This is really cool. This is one that is really good if you don't have those command line chops and you want you want more help with just seeing it visually in the site. This is a module you can actually add and install in Drupal. It gives you lots of information to prepare you for upgrades, and it's all in the Drupal UI. So we can take a look at that as the next step. Here is the project page for upgrade status. It has really, and by the way, this has changed. It's always updating. I imagine as Drupal 10 approaches in the future, the contributors will have fixes for this to work in Drupal 10. But it's got really great documentation. This is handy, by the way, that even explains what the differences is, what upgrade status can do over Drupal Check. And as you can see, it does a lot more checks. So it kind of is a good thing to run upgrade status on a test machine on local or maybe a development environment because of all these other checks that you actually get. But Drupal Check has got its advantages as well, meaning it can run command line and you can have it set up in your testing pipelines if you have those set up. There's also some command line capabilities with upgrade status as well, but we're not going to worry about that today. We're going to do it all through the Drupal UI. So let's take a look at that. I have the Drupal 8 site ready to go, and I'm going to go to extend here first, and we will scroll down. Where is it at here? I think it's under admin. There it is. So we can see upgrade status is installed with a checkbox there. It's ready to go. It helps you review the Drupal 9 readiness. So I happen to know I already know where to go and access this report. But just as a quick note for beginners and folks newer to Drupal, a lot of modules have these helpful links right here. So I can open that little that drop down and I can see configure will take me to the report. If you want to go there manually, simply go to reports and then go to upgrade status. And this is really cool. So it tells you all kinds of things. And by the way, I'm running these local environments on DDEV. Links are in the slides. So don't worry about that. But DDEV is a great tool for local environments. There's others as well, but DDEV is allowing me to run on this computer Drupal 8 and Drupal 9. and other projects that I need. And so some of the notes here, like about the database needing to be updated and things, that's related to what I'm running on my local setup here. But it gives you all these requirements for the environment, which is good. That tells you to go check your hosting environment where you host your project. It talks about custom projects. Those are projects that that need to be upgraded manually. It's projects that it's not aware of in the community. Probably something you wrote or had a developer write for you. And then contributed projects. So we see 2 projects, and I've already run the scan, but to run the scan, you just check the boxes and you say scan selected. We won't run that again just to save some time, but I'm going to show you what upgrade status finds for us and what's different. So upgrade status has found 2 items. So, and it mentions it can fix with automation. And we'll talk about Rector here in a second, Drupal Rector, which is a cool project. But it's finding the exact same issue. So this just confirms that Drupal Check and upgrade status both show, and even the VS Code plugin for Drupal Check, they're all showing us the correct thing. But notice this additional piece. So it also says that there needs to be a core version requirement line added to the info YAML file. And this is the file that basically says, here's how, this is the basically specifications for the module. So Drupal knows what kind of project it is. It knows things about it, like which versions are supported. This is a new addition to that YAML specification for the info YAML files in Drupal. And Composer will read this and know which versions the module supports. So that's what's really handy here. We're just saying, hey, it works with Drupal 8 or Drupal 9. You can also even say Drupal 8 8, or you can specify even minor release versions here. So that's something we need to address. So that was a benefit of using upgrade status. We can now see what's additionally needed there. So that is upgrade status. Let's jump to Drupal Rector. We kind of mentioned that because upgrade status even has a mention about this. This is a command line tool primarily, and this one's a little different. So this one will not only show you the issues, it will also offer to fix them for you. So let's demo that a little bit. So this is the project. This one's on GitHub, like Drupal Check. This is the Drupal Rector project on GitHub, and it has, again, really good documentation. It's a little more advanced, I would say, because there's a little bit of setup, but it's really spelled out here. You can follow the instructions along the way, and it's pretty good. The big thing here is you're going to have to make a decision and copy, depending on how your Drupal site structure, folder structure set up. You're going to copy a config file that will end up being rector.yaml that lives in your project somewhere. And that just has configurations. And then they go into explaining all the configurations. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at that. In this project, I've already set up the rector YAML file, and this is what it looks like. I'll show you the only thing I changed, by the way, once I copied it. This was already set, but you can control which deprecations to check against. We're just saying out of the box, check for all Drupal 8 deprecations. The only thing I changed was I changed these paths. So that's because the rector file and where I'm running it lives, the core folder and the core modules folder, those all live right here in the same directory. So I just adjusted those, and you'll know when this isn't right because it'll tell you with some errors. I didn't change anything else, but there's some other options you can adjust, but I found that you don't need to. So let's run this. Clear screen there just to give us a little bit of what there. So now, so notice I'm passing a path vendor bin rector process. That's a command for it, and I tell it the folder. We're looking at maintenance mode redirect, and we're doing a dry run. Now, all this means is the dry run is going to not fix it for us. It's going to show us the issue. And the issue is that same line 20, and it's telling us that that same URL is deprecated. And we can actually go back to the file here. And remember, that's Drupal Check telling us the same thing. So let's try this. Let's run this without dry run. And I'm going to, all right, so we took dry run off. This should fix the issue. All right. And the squiggly changed here. I think that's just Drupal Check is confused a little bit, but because it saw something change. But if we close this file out and reopen it, it's still, oh no, it went away. There we go. So it did change the code here to use the correct URL from route. So that's awesome. It fixes it for you. I will say that Drupal Rector may not cover everything. They've been adding to the project to cover all of the deprecations. It's a work in progress. So might be good to use upgrade status maybe as a start to know the full suite of issues, and then use something like Drupal Rector to help you fix them. But of course, you could replace these on your own too. It's just a different set of, just a lot of options to use. And the last one here is really cool. This is an Acquia tool. It's the Drupal 9 deprecation status. This one is very accessible to everybody to use. It's basically a report, and it will tell you which modules have issues. It's looking at all of the contrib modules in the Drupal space. It gives you a nice breakdown of look at all the work that needs to be done. Needs manual review. I mean, there's lots of help that's needed. So that's part of why I want to do this talk. Lots of help needed for this project. Getting Drupal 8 modules compatible with Drupal 9. So that is, as you can see, there's, a lot of these are already Drupal 9 compatible, but you can use filters and search for different projects that you're looking for. It's a great way to find a project where you can help and contribute to. All right, so here's the fun part. Let's work on actually a live demo upgrade of a module, and we're going to identify the Drupal module first. We are going to review the issue queue a bit, do a little bit of auditing, and there's a little bit of note here about that. There's a website for the Drupal API that's a great reference to help you understand the changes and deprecations. We'll have to deal with patches. So that's a whole world, and there's a lot to that. But just what I'm going to show today is that we've already got a patch submitted to us by someone in the community, which is fantastic. I did not have to do it. Someone else did that for us. And we'll commit the changes and release a D9 version if we can finish that all up in time. So let's see here. So our demo project is going to be, let's see here. Yeah, that's right. All right, that's where I need to switch to. The demo project we're going to use is another project called User Password Reset Link Timeout. That's a mouthful. All this project does real simple. When Drupal 7.1.5 came out, there was a setting that was added where you can adjust the time when you send when a user requests or an admin sends a user a reset password link from Drupal. Usually it's 24 hours is the length of that is available, but sometimes people want maybe 2 days or 3 days so that's available because it's times out and people get confused and they need another link to get back in their account. There is a security-ish warning here. You don't want to just extend this super long because then as long as that link's available, someone can just log in as that user. But it is a handy tool, and all this does is expose it in for the user so they can actually see that. And before we get started here, too deep into that work, I did want to show, let's see here. I did want to show there's an issue. So we're in the issue queue of the project now, and I'm going to say only show, these filters are great. I'm going to say only show us 8 8.x version. That's all we're concerned with. Hey, look, something was fixed yesterday. That's cool. So we had something committed already. So we have this issue here, and I'm going to drop that in the chat. This is anybody that is on this session live and participates, please. And first of all, make sure that you have a Drupal 8 account. I'm sorry, Drupal.org account. And you can do that by going to Drupal.org. And I'm logged in, but there'll be in this space, there'll be an area that says register. So create a Drupal.org account. You can then go to this actual issue, and you can simply make a comment saying I attended the session, or whatever you want to say, and I will give you an issue credit. That just means you've participated. It shows participation, and I'll give you an issue credit when I close this issue for this release work. So feel free to do that. All right. So we've got we've identified the module. We're going to review the issue queue a bit. Let's jump back into that. And okay, so there's a couple of things here going on. One is I noticed there's an automated Drupal Rector fixes issue that needs review. What is this about? Well, you'll see this in a lot of issue queues right now. The Drupal community basically, and if you go into this issue, feel free to read all this. It explains everything, but this is an automated bot that will automatically run Rector that we just reviewed, and it will automatically say this needs to be fixed and submit even a patch. So that provides us a patch of the fix. And the only fix they've said that we need is this Drupal 8 and 9 core version requirement fix. And we'll be good. So that's good to note. That's awesome. But I also noticed that there's a Drupal 9 readiness issue that a non-bot, real people, actually contributed to. So as a maintainer, I prefer to work in this one, and we'll review this patch together. There was a patch submitted for this. Looks very similar. Drupal 8 and 9 core version requirement. So let's work in this issue. That way we can give credit to actual humans. We're happy the bot's there to help us also, but I can close that out and reference back to this later. So it's great to see some familiar faces on this issue also. It's fantastic. So now let me show you what this project actually does. The user password reset timeout feature. If you go to configuration in our Drupal 8 site, you can go to account settings. All this module does is add this UI element where we can extend, and that's the default. It's where you can extend the reset timeout feature. So that's all that is. And I promised earlier too, now that I've shown that's what the module does. I did promise earlier, there is also, and I've got links in the slide notes for this, but this is api.drupal.org is very beneficial. There's a lot of things in here that may be complicated depending on where you're at on skill set. Some of it seems complicated to me as well, and I've been doing Drupal for a long time. So that's okay, because you can always ask questions. But this is all of the background and code, gives you all the details on how Drupal works behind the scenes. One thing I wanted to point out is if you ever want to see all the things that have been deprecated in a version, like if I go back to Drupal 8.9 and I click deprecated, this will show you all the things deprecated. You'll notice they're the same messages that Drupal Check and these other audit tools show us. But it gives you background, and you can actually go into the actual code and read more about it. So that's a great tool when you're reviewing things to see what needs to be done. And then we've got audit with upgrade status. So, and let me turn off my do not disturb, but I did see somebody came in and pointed out something, actually commented in the issue we talked about, which is fantastic. So, next we want to check things before the actual patch here. Let's go. I'm going to close the maintenance mode stuff. let's open up a user password timeout. So if I run Drupal check, it's not going to tell me. I'll just kind of shorten that. It's not going to tell us anything about this. So, it's not going to say that you need the core version requirement change. The only one that does that for us is upgrade status. So if we went back to upgrade status right here in the upgrade status report, it will tell us that as we saw before. So that's really this is so this, and I think Rector showed us that. Maybe it didn't, but that's another reason to try different audit tools. But this is where this is shown, so we know that needs to be changed. So we'll leave that open and test it here. Now let's go back to VS Code and let's apply the patch. So here's how I apply patches. It's a kind of a cool little trick. I'm going to right click and copy the link to the patch. I am going to go back to VS Code and I've got a Alfred script, which is just a little helper thing here. And I'm going to type curl, and I have this curl patch tool. And all this does is take my clipboard of that link and does a pipe patch -p1, which what that really means is it's going to pull down the patch from Drupal.org and then apply the patch with the change that we need, all in one fell swoop there. So, and you can see that appears on the screen there, and I'm going to run it, and it is need to be in the right folder. Let's see, contrib user, and all right. So it patched it, and there's the file change. Notice it's made the change. That's fantastic. So now we can go back and let's do another check. Let's do a check on this project again. And scanning the file here. All right. So no known errors. That's what we wanted to see. That means it's all ready to go. That's awesome. Very good to see there. All right. So let's jump in. I'm catching back up here on my script to make sure we cover things. And okay, so we are now ready. So we've checked that. That seems like there's no problems there. Now I don't have any automated tests. I'd love some contributed to this project, by the way. We don't have any automated tests right now. One thing we can do though is we can run, if we want to test, a way to test this, and this is because I understand the module, is there is a config value stored for that timeout, how long the timeout is. And if you remember, the timeout default was 86,400 seconds. So if we do, so basically I know I can do this because I'm actually going to, let me see if I can find the right. Let me do this. So if I do ddev dot, that tells me that I'm going to execute something in ddev, and I'm running the drush tool, which is a tool we use for command line interaction with Drupal. I'm going to say config get user.settings. The only reason I know that is because I've tested it before, and I know it will give me it will show the value that Drupal knows is true for this module. And let's see, it should output, and we should see 86,400. And I need to spell it right, maybe. Oh, here we go. Let's try this again. We should see that password timeout. There we go. Password reset timeout 86,400. And great little test we can do is if we go to let's see here. If we go to the actual project, I'm gonna go to configuration again, account settings. Let's change the value So 60 seconds. Okay, that means that this link is going to work for 1 minute. I did that right. Notice it says 60 seconds there. So that worked, right? We tested it after the patch. That still works. And if I go back and run this command again, I should see 60 in there. This is a manual test. And there it is. This is a manual test just to show it works. All right. So I'm excited. I'm ready to make commit this. Let's do this thing. All right. So we are at a place now where we can commit this. I am going to do a handy thing here where I can, so first of all, I'm going to check to make sure to give credit on the commit. It looks like that Hardik actually made the patch. We have some other users that have been involved and helped out here. So we're going to give them credits also. And then it automatically gives us a git commit command. This is a little behind the scenes on working with a project as a maintainer. And I am going to add all, check it and do git status. This just shows us that we've made a change to the YAML file. We're ready to commit it and push it up. And then I can just paste that git commit. And what this will do, it gives everybody credit for what they've done, which is fantastic. I didn't do the work, they did it, but I get to test it and get it out there. And notice it says who the author is, but also puts in the message there others that have been involved. And I'm going to push this up. And we now have a change. And I'm using TIG. It's a git command, so we can visualize what's changed, but we can see that commit happened. It's been pushed up. And if I refresh this page, it will show us that it's been pushed up. I committed it. That just means I did the work to get it in the project, but these folks did that. And so I'll close this issue out a little bit later. Let's go make the new version. How about that? So what we're going to do now is we're going to tag a new release. There's some differences on how you can get tag stuff, but I'm going to do git tag. There different ways to do version numbering now in Drupal 9. I did some research and it seems like we just need to stick with this current setup. So I'm going to do git tag 8.x-1.2. That'll be the next version. And I can see that here with the tag listed in that line 8x12. And I'm going to push that tag up. That just means that Drupal.org will have it. And I am using some shortcuts. GP is git push. So here we go. So we're pushing up the tag. And here we go. And we're on our last minute here, I think, but we are ready to get this issue released, which is fantastic. So here's how that works. I went to the main page. You can see 8.1.1 is our last one, requires Drupal 8, right? That's going to all change. So we're going to add a new release. And I see 1.2 is available. That's because I pushed the tag up. We all pushed it up. We all worked together on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this part here. So all that's going to happen, since we're kind of out of time, I'm going to, I'll take care of this during our next session and get the release out. And I'll actually post it. And I'll post it maybe in the chat. But I'm going to make notes here that says these are the issues that were in this release. And then you'll see that this is now Drupal 8 and 9 compatible. We did it as a group. I don't have a soundboard like April to give applause, but I'd like to thank everybody today for their time. And I'll turn it back over to Kelly. Thanks, Kelly.
All right. Thank you, Shrub. That was fantastic. I hope you all enjoyed the session.